Little man Jack was probably the youngest son in a big family, otherwise he wouldn't have been called Little Man Jack, I don't expect. He must have had older brothers. I don't know whether they tried to find their fortune and failed or succeeded or what, but Little man Jack one day decided he was going to go off and find his fortune. So he made himself a nice jam sandwich and bottle of water and set off down the road, not knowing what he was going to do, but hoping that he was going to have a successful trip. And as he was walking down the road, he was whittling away at a little piece of wood. He had his penknife and a bit of wood, just carving away at it, not taking very much notice of what he was doing. He didn't know what he was trying to carve. He was just amusing himself, passing the time. And what he did carve himself was a sort of flat wooden spoon, sort of spatula type thing. He called it a paddle. Anyway, after he walked for a few hours, he decided it was time to sit down and eat his jam sandwich. And you know what happens on a nice summer's day? You open your jam sandwich and all the flies and wasps and things come buzzing around. And that's what happened. He tried shooing them away and they wouldn't go. And in the end, he picked up his paddle and went whack. And when he looked, he'd killed 7 flies with one whack. And he thought that was really good, really clever. And the other flies disappeared off anyway, so it was very successful. He was so pleased with that later on that day, when he came into a town, he got someone who could make a belt to make him a nice big wide belt. And on the back of it, they put the words, Little Man Jack, 7 with one whack. And he wore this belt with great pride. And he walked down the road for another few more days. I don't know whether he carried on whittling along or not, but anyway, eventually he came to a city. And he went in through the gates, bustling city, crowds of people, everything going on, market stalls, people selling things, people, all kinds of whatever you find in cities. And he was a bit off-put because he noticed people looking at him. Why are they looking at me, he thought. And a lot of the people looking at him were behind him, and they were looking at him and pointing. And then he was approached by a group of soldiers, 3 soldiers, who took him by the arm and marched him off. And they marched him off to the palace, and he was taken before the king. And his immediate reaction was, if you go before the king, you've got to bow. But no, they said, turn round. And so he had to turn his back to the king, so that the king could read Little Man Jack, 7 with one whack on his back. And the king said, we're really pleased to see you. You're obviously a great hero if you can kill 7 with one whack, and you're just the person we need. Up in the north of our country, there's a wild boar, a huge wild boar, and it's rampaging around the countryside. It's scaring the farmers, it's ruining the crops. My soldiers can't kill it. If you can kill 7 with one whack, I'm sure you can kill that wild boar. And if you do, I'll give you a bag of gold. So Jack was quite pleased with the idea. He didn't know how he'd go about killing a wild boar, but the idea of a little purse of gold coins, that was just right. So he set off, armed with his little penknife, to kill this huge, monstrous wild boar. And when he saw it, he realised there was no chance at all. It was huge, all covered in bristly fur. Its tail was stuck up like a mast behind it, had big tusks, razor sharp, and it charged at Jack, and the only thing he could do was run for his life down the road. And luckily for Jack, when he got near the bottom of the hill, there was a little old broken down cottage. And Jack ran into the cottage, and there was a hole in the roof, so he went out through the hole in the roof, and the boar followed him, hot on his heels, through the door, and it was stuck. See, it was so big, he couldn't shift around and get out again. So the boar was stuck in the cottage. Jack jumped down off the roof, went back to the king and said, well, your majesty, I didn't kill the boar, I didn't want to get blood everywhere, but it's trapped. It's stuck up there in the cottage. If you just, it's safe, it can't do any more harm. Send your soldiers up there, they can finish it off. So the king was really pleased. And he said, well, that's really good. there's one other job. I wonder, what do you think about unicorns? And Jack thought, well, unicorn, little sort of pony with a spike on its forehead. No problem about unicorns, I'm sure. What do you want done with this unicorn? Well, I want you to kill the unicorn because it's dangerous. It's killing people all over the place. So Jack went off to kill the unicorn, this little pony with the spike on its forehead. But it wasn't. It was huge. It was like a Shire horse. And the spike on its forehead was like a telegraph pole. And it stood there looking at Jack, and it was pawing the ground. Its hooves were striking sparks off the gravel. And it lowered its head, and it charged. And Jack just stepped aside, and the unicorn went round, past him. Skidded to a halt, turned round, charged back the other way. Missed him again. The third time, it was charging straight at Jack. And he just dodged to the side, just in the nick of time, and he was standing in front of a tree. So the unicorn's horn went straight through the tree. And the unicorn's horn has got a spiral on it. So this screwed itself into the tree. And it couldn't unscrew it to get it out again. So the unicorn was stuck there with its horn in the tree. And Jack was able to go back to the king and say, well, I've made it safe again. You send your soldiers, they can finish it off. I'll take my bags of gold and go, if you please. But just at that moment, the door at the back of the court opened, and in came a man covered in dust and sweat and dirt. Your Majesty, he said, down in the south of the country, there's a man-eating lion. It's killing everybody. We can't do anything about it. Please will you send your soldiers to kill the man-eating lion? No, I won't send my soldiers, said the king. I'll send Jack. You can kill a man-eating lion, can't you, Jack? You've done the unicorn and the war. Oh, of course I can. Little old pussycat. No problem at all, said Jack. You'll give me another bag of gold? Yes, of course I will, said the king. Jack didn't know how he was going to get out of this, but then he had an idea. He said, well, look, that man-eating lion is actually on my way home. So if I go and kill the man-eating lion, it means I've got to come back here to get my bags of gold. Could I just take my bags of gold with me and I'll kill the man-eating lion on my way home? I promise I will. So the king agreed. Okay, gave Jack his 3 bags of gold and set him off. Off you go and kill the man-eating lion and good luck. Well, Jack had no intention of killing the man-eating lion, of course. He was going to sneak home as quickly and quietly as he possibly could. But although Jack did not go looking for the man-eating lion did go looking for Jack. And it suddenly came out there in front of him. And it was huge. And the only way Jack could have escaped was climb up a tree, go right up the top of the tree where the branches were so small and feeble that the lion couldn't follow him. And he stayed up there for hours. He stayed up there till it got to night time, and he stayed up there all night, and he became aware of snoring, and he realised that the lion was sort of curled up round the bottom of the tree and had fallen asleep. So when it began to get light, Jack crept down from the tree very quietly and carefully, hoping to escape from this sleeping lion. And he was doing very, very well until he was most of the way down, and he put his foot on a dead branch that snapped off, and Jack plunged the rest of the way right onto the back of the lion. And it scared the lion. Well, it didn't scare him to death, but it scared the lion. And the lion jumped up and yelled, what's happening? And the lion went running around the countryside, yelling and roaring and screeching, and Jack was clinging to its neck, and he was yelling and roaring and screeching as well, and they were bounding about, and in the end they bound about across in front of the king's palace. And a couple of the guards who were on duty up the top of the tower looked down, and they saw this strange sight coming across. What's that? Telescope. Go look. It's our friend Jack. I think he might be in trouble. I think he might need a hand, might need some help. And so they got their bows and arrows and shot the lion. They're good shots. They didn't get Jack, which they could easily have done. And the lion fell down dead. And Jack got his breath back and then stood up and thought, could be an embarrassing situation here, couldn't I? They've killed the lion and I was supposed to be killing the lion. And then he had an idea. He marched into the king and he said, "Your Majesty, I am angry. In fact, I'm furious. Your soldiers have just killed the lion." And the king said, "My soldiers have killed the lion. I thought you were going to kill the lion." "Well, yeah, you did ask me to do that," said Jack. "But when I saw it, I had a brainwave. I thought, what a magnificent animal. And all these other kings in the neighbouring kingdoms, they ride around on horses. One or two of them even ride on elephants. But no one rides a lion. And I thought, what about if I could tame it so that you, Your Majesty, could ride on a lion? Wouldn't that be great?" And the king thought it would. Yeah, that would be really grand. "I'd almost got it tamed," said Jack. "I was just riding across in front of your palace doing the finishing touches and your soldiers killed it." "Well, in that case," said the king, "I am really furious too. You soldiers, you've got the sack. You're not getting any pay now forever. And Jack, you can get your bags of gold for killing the boar and the unicorn and the lion, and you can have another bag of gold as well as the soldiers' wages for the next year. Thank you very much, and if you ever want a job, come back and see me again. And if I ever want a hero, I know where to send for you." So Jack took his 4 bags of gold and went off home. I don't know what he did with it. I don't know whether he spent it all on treasures for himself or whether he looked after his family, his friends, his neighbouring villagers and so on. That isn't told in the story, but I do know what he did with the belt that said "Little Man Jack 7 with 1 whack." He folded it up as small as he could and hid it away at the bottom of a drawer because he didn't want anyone else thinking he was a great hero and giving him any more dangerous tasks to do. So that's the story of Little Man Jack.